Welcome to Cyclone InCYders. I'm your host, Ben Olson, joined as always at the desk with John Miller and Jared Bravard, our insider analysts. One quick update for you. The Iowa State versus Northern Illinois basketball game at Hilton did just go final. Iowa State pulled away in a sloppy one, 70-52, defeating the Huskies. But we'll get into all that analysis later. First, let's talk about an exciting weekend in football. Very entertaining game. The Iowa State Cyclones played in Norman but lost to the Sooners 42-41 in the final seconds on a failed two-point conversion attempt. That came with 24 seconds left after Iowa State was down 21 going into that fourth quarter, guys. Came all the way back. Some really impressive stat lines. Brock Purdy, 19 for 30, 282 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That ties a single-game school record. Breece Hall, over 100 yards again. The defense looked like it had some holes, though, but a few nice individual performances. Overall, let's just start with some of your initial thoughts on the game, and then we'll jump into that gutsy two-point conversion attempt. Jared, why don't you start?
Oh, yeah, so overall in the game, got out a little flat, missed some of those early interceptions, those early turnovers I think really would have changed the game for the Cyclones. But you love to see that effort of being down 21 at halftime, being down big in the third quarter, and still fighting and not hanging your head, like teams in the past might have done and gotten blown out. And so I thought we learned a lot about the team this week, even though they didn't come out with the win. They were down by so much and they didn't give up. And so I thought that was really nice to see.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially going into halftime, 35-14 the score, it would have been really easy for Iowa State to roll over. And then they caught their hand there at the end. John, I'm going to start with you on this one first. What did you think of Coach Campbell's decision to forego the extra point, send it to overtime, and go for 2 points?
I actually like the decision to go for 2. I was more of the thought that Oklahoma was, a better team than we were, so I didn't think in overtime we were going to be able to hang with them. So I liked the call for 2, but I didn't necessarily like the play that they designed. It seemed like I felt like Purdy should have had the ball as like a running option or like a RPO, something like that. Mm-hmm. I feel like at the latest moments in the game, we should have the ball in the best players' hands in our team. So I think I just would like to see that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I respect the move. I really do. I don't have any problem with it. I think Brock Purdy was in the zone this game, and you obviously wanted to ride the hot hand. And I think Coach Campbell knew that when you got a chance to defeat Oklahoma in Norman 2 years in a row, right there in front of you, go ahead and take it. And we'd be calling him a genius if they would have converted that one there. Jared, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you guys. I like the call of going for it. You've come all the way back. You have all the momentum. So why not give the ball to Brock Purdy and let him make a play and try to win the game? Unfortunate that it didn't go the Cyclones' way. But if you put Jalen at the 25-yard line in overtime, he's going to score a lot of those. So I definitely agree with trying to end it right there in regulation.
It's hard not to wonder, though, with all that momentum in the fourth quarter that Iowa State had collected, if they would have been able to carry that into overtime, and maybe we would have been surprised. Maybe our defense would have stepped up. So you're always going to play the what-if game. Of course, that very questionable no pass interference call on that two-point conversion. Either of you guys have any thoughts that you really wanted to express? On a play like that, it almost always seems like there's going to be no whistle. Mm-hmm. And you got to kind of know that. If you're calling a play expecting a pass interference, you kind of got to expect that you're not going to get it. It still would have been nice to see, because I definitely do not think the Oklahoma defender had his head turned around. Mm-hmm. What would you guys think?
Yeah, he just hit him before the ball was there. It kind of threw Petaway off, but I think that no matter if it was pass interference or not, Petaway was double covered pretty much, so right. I don't even know why he got the ball on the play, but I guess it was just the design of the play. So,
and it's it's one thing if you look at it. I mean, we put up 41 points and we're still finding something to hang our heads about because we lost that 1 2-point conversion attempt. This Iowa State team is just so close this year. They're just right there. 3 1-point losses. I think I saw a statistic today that's only happened to 2 other teams in a season to have 3 1-point games, and those were both 2 Nebraska seasons. So really a tough season in close games for the Cyclones. What's one positive spin that you guys are going to take though from this really another impressive overall performance against Oklahoma, who's dominated us for 60 years?
I guess I would just say the not giving up. The defense kind of gave up a lot of plays in that first half, a lot of big plays, a lot of touchdowns, and to see them keep fighting and get those late turnovers to bring Iowa State back into this game, I think was something that's very important that they'll build on through the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. I like that you kind of pointed that out about the defense. You know, as bad as 42 points in the game sounds and 35 points in the first half sounds, I mean, 0 in the fourth, 7 in the third,
right.
2 in Oklahoma offense. That's arguably one of the best in the nation. I mean, it still was the first time Iowa State's given up 40 points since last season, but, you know, there's certainly nothing to hang your hats on that. You know, you struggle in the first half, you learn from it. You know, second half, we obviously showed that we can compete with about anybody in the country. So. And
the bounce back after dropping those near interceptions, too, and then being able to force those turnovers late, that was good to see.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the Iowa State of the past, not led by Matt Campbell and Tom Manning, would have rolled over. So it was nice to see some fight, especially this late in the season with all of these close games that Iowa State's battling. But we got to turn our attention now to the Texas Longhorns, who are coming into town on Saturday. Going to kick off at 2:30 at Jack Trice, and this is a big game for Iowa State, no doubt. Texas ranked number 19 in the latest college football playoff rankings. Iowa State still looking for bowl eligibility, still chasing that 8-4 finish to try and hit another 8-win season. Do you guys think this is a must-win game for Iowa State at home against a Texas team that they've been so close with?
You know, I think to answer the question if it's a must-win or not, we kind of got to think about what our expectations for Iowa State was coming into the season. I mean, I guess I thought that, you know, we'd be a 2 to 3 loss team in conference, and we're at 3 right now. So with that being said, you know, this is kind of one of them that, yeah, we do kind of need if, you know, we're going to be that same, what was the bowl we made last year against Washington State?
Alamo Bowl.
Alamo Bowl, yeah, like that kind of caliber of bowl team, you know, not quite top tier, but still, you know, a very respectable bowl team. But, I mean, I think also that we have to realize that Iowa State this year is not necessarily underperforming, in my opinion. I think the Big 12 is just kind of overperforming than what we initially thought. You know, I didn't see Baylor being the team they were going to be. Kansas State's got a really formidable team. Oklahoma State's obviously a very, you know, tough team. So just I think everybody, even Kansas, they've improved a lot. So, you know, overall it's just a lot more of a dogfight than I think people thought it was going to be this year.
I really like the point you made about the Big 12 overperforming. The fact that Oklahoma has 1 loss right now and Baylor has none is very surprising to me. And you think about the luck factor between a team like Iowa State and a team like Baylor. I mean, it really is a game of inches. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is a must-win for Iowa State, though, because I think it's very important for Matt Campbell to get this team back to 8 wins. And even with 1 more loss, they could still get there with a bowl win. But I would love to see him finish the year 8-4 because, I mean, if you can consistently set 8 wins as your school standard, that's really big for recruiting. That's really big for your program, and it's a step in the right direction because I don't think I thought we would be at this point already in the Matt Campbell era. So I want to say it's a must-win game and see him knock off the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'd say all of them going out here at the end of the season are must-wins. You obviously want to finish the season strong, and especially with already having those few close losses, you want to come out and show that that's not who you are. And you know, with Texas coming to town here, I think it's going to be another good opponent, like you said, John. You know, the Big 12 is overperforming this year, not necessarily Iowa State's underperformance, and everyone's kind of beating up on each other. And it's week in, week out. You don't know who's going to win necessarily, so more on the conference rather than Iowa State.
Yeah.
And we'll save score predictions for the Pick 'em segment at the end of the show, but let's go ahead. I want to hear who you guys think's going to win this game. Do you think Iowa State's going to pull it out?
I think I got Texas in a close one. I think that they got some really talented receivers on the outside with Devin Duvernay. I think he's leading the conference in receptions and yards. And then they also have Colin Johnson, who coming into this year, very big-bodied receiver out there on the outside. I just think their passing attack is going to be a little too much for us to handle. But I mean, I do expect it to be a close game as always. Cyclones are going to battle. Matt Campbell's going to bring his team ready to play. So.
I respect that. I respect that pick. I think it's going to be a tough game, especially with Texas riding the hot hand with that win over Kansas State. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Iowa State's going to win this game because you look at past seasons, they usually have one staple win over a Big 12 team at home. That West Virginia game last year, TCU 2 years ago. I think this is going to be their staple win. I think they're finally going to make a statement against Texas. Jared?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben. I think Iowa State pulls this one out. I think they're going to come back pretty inspired after that game in Oklahoma, knowing that they could have won that game and come out here and perform early and often against the Longhorns and get the win.
Well, hopefully we'll see you at Jack Trice Stadium on Saturday for a very crucial game in Iowa State's season. Jumping back now to men's basketball, who, like we said, just finished up with an 18-point victory over Northern Illinois. Not a great outcome week for Cyclone Athletics this weekend. Lots of exciting games, but Iowa State just on the wrong side. On Saturday, the men's basketball team also lost to Oregon State on the road, 80-74. Oregon State was just really hot in this one, guys, shooting 57% from three-point range. Still some things that Iowa State definitely needs to work on. You can tell they looked like it was their second game of the season. We'll talk about all the stats as we keep going here, but I want to just hear your guys' initial thoughts. 3 games in, 2-1, which is we kind of thought they could win the Oregon State game. From my perspective, I think I'm a little underwhelmed with what we've seen from this team so far. Do you guys agree, or am I being premature?
Yeah, I would agree with you that we're kind of performing a little below expectations, but I think that just comes with losing so as much as we did. Even the guys that we have back are not necessarily the biggest scorers that we have. So I think the team is just struggling with that early on, kind of finding who's going to be that guy we're going to go to late in the game. Even in the Oregon State game, it seemed like down the stretch, it was like we were right there, and then all of a sudden just Oregon State just got a couple big buckets that we didn't seem to get on offense. So, just things like that, always that could be the difference between winning and a loss here and there. So.
Yeah, I wanted to add, it seems like early that Iowa State's really struggling to score. And I know they've put up 70 and they dropped 100 against Mississippi Valley State, but BYU scored 140 against that same team the next game. So I think somewhere in this rotation, Iowa State's going to have to find their score because they lost that Shayok and that Wigginton that they had from last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some bright spots of the season so far, but it's just not been together enough. It hasn't come together enough yet. And I mean, being 3 games in, that's not anything to worry about too much. But I think they haven't looked as good as we thought they were based on the preseason hype here. But a lot of season left, obviously, and I think they can gel together more with new guys like Bolton and Nixon later, and really come together, and they might be able to put together a run once conference play starts.
Mm-hmm. The freshmen from last year, I think, have looked pretty good early. I've been impressed with George Condit. I think he'll start to be a presence on the inside, be a great block factor for Iowa State. And Tyrese Halliburton is currently leading the nation, averaging 13 assists a game, or was headed into the game tonight. Do you guys think that he needs to be scoring more? He's the clear leader of this team, going to be a fan favorite. He's the kind of guy that, if it was me, I would hate to play against him. His motor doesn't stop. But should he be a bigger factor in the offense than just his assist game?
I think Tyrese is kind of more like a Monte Morris for this offense. And when I looked at Monte's stats, he would average 16 points a game his senior year. Tyrese is averaging 13 around right now. So, I mean, I don't think that's Tyrese Halliburton's game, even though, coming into this year, we're like, oh, he's got to be our leader. He doesn't have to score to be a leader on our team. But he does have to be able to have the ball in his hands late in the game, and I haven't been seeing that. So that's just something, going forward that I want to see out of him.
Yeah, I mean, the Cyclone fan base has just grown accustomed to our point guard having an insane assist-to-turnover ratio. Yeah. We're not even surprised or impressed by what Halliburton is doing, even though compared to the rest of the NCAA, it's phenomenal. Jared, do you think he should score more, though?
I would like to see him score more, but like Ben said, I don't think it's necessary per se. He's distributing the ball well. He's obviously someone that can control the ball for us. But, I mean, last year he had that good shooting percentage, just didn't pull the trigger all the time. And so I would like to see him take the chance a little more because he's able to score when he has those chances. It would certainly help the team. I don't think it has to be there. I think there's enough other help with him passing it off. But we'll just have to see as the season goes on.
There's no doubt he's got great judgment, and any kind of play he makes for the Iowa State offense is a good one. I just think he's got that length and the ability that we saw this summer playing for the Olympic team. I would just like to see a little more production out of him, take a little more shots for this offense. But we'll see. I'm sure Coach Prohm will work in a game plan, and I'm not really worried about it. One huge bright spot for Iowa State basketball this weekend was the announcement of Xavier Foster, the number 60 ESPN recruit, top recruit in the state of Iowa, committing to Iowa State over the Iowa Hawkeyes. And he was a lifelong Hawkeye fan, folks. So this was a huge get for Coach Prohm and his staff. What does this mean for Iowa State basketball? And he's the biggest recruit since when for the Cyclones?
So this is huge for the basketball program. One of the biggest recruits in a while, like you said. Had it narrowed down to Iowa and Iowa State, which didn't surprise me at all. I kind of had a gut feeling he was going to go to Iowa, but glad to see him come to Iowa State, and I think he can contribute right away. And in regards to the biggest recruit since, I'd probably, based on rankings, I think Matt Thomas was right around 50 coming out of high school. And obviously had other bigger names like George and them, but they were ranked a little lower. So I guess probably Matt Thomas in recent memory, but the rest, that whole team performed well with the Matt Thomas team.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of talked about some of the recruits we've gotten. I think another point we should make, some of the ones we missed on before, Ames' very own Doug McDermott, Harrison Barnes, Iowa State missed out on those in the past. So to see them land a guy like Xavier Foster, who was, I believe was top 20 last season in the prospect rankings, and now he's like 50, 60s in that range. So, that's just huge for our program. And if he is going to be that caliber of player, then that's just going to be even better. And if Halliburton decides to stay, you could see a little 1-2 action there. But, yeah, I guess I would like to see Foster just kind of develop into a star right away. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll admit, I think this seems like a guy that Coach Hoiberg would have missed on. So really just Coach Prohm proving again and again that he's got what it takes to recruit to Iowa State. Really love to see that. And regardless, it was great to see a guy like Foster stay in the state of Iowa. That's really big for basketball around here. So really exciting future for Iowa State basketball. Jumping over to the women's side, they also started their season last Thursday, defeating Southern 69-36. Ashley Jones has looked terrific, this guys, scoring the first, I believe it was 12 or so points in this game against Southern, finishing with 23. And then, unfortunately, we kind of talked about it when we looked at their schedule last show. They lost to Drake on Sunday, 86-81. Great game between two really competitive teams. Pretty similar to the Oregon State men's game. Drake shot 51% for the game, 44 from deep. Really was able to close an Iowa State lead with 4 3-pointers. And then Iowa State was down by as many as 17 and just not able to claw their way back. What player has impressed you guys for this women's basketball team so far in the early season? Jared?
I'd say Ashley Jones, coming off of last year. Had a good season last year. But so far this season, getting 20 points a game. So far these first two kind of help filling that role down low, which is being voided by Carlton's leaving and graduating. So I'd say her stepping in as a sophomore here and really doing some good work down low for the Cyclones so far. And being only a rebound off of double-digit rebounds here the first 2 games. So good stuff out of her.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's going to be the best player all year, or most important player, for Iowa State, and sort of mirroring a little Bridget Carlton in her play this year. Really nice to see. John, do you like anyone else?
Yeah, Christian Scott at the center position, 22 points in 21 minutes of action against Drake. That's about as efficient as you can get. I mean,
Yeah.
But she's out there even hitting threes as a center, so that's always, helpful to spread the defense out a little bit. But I do want to point out that Iowa State's loss to Drake doesn't sound as bad as some people might think it is. Drake's obviously a smaller school than we are, but women's sports are, much different than men's are in the aspect of like programs being, always the same programs being elite and stuff like that. I mean, Drake certainly, or I wouldn't say certainly, but they're a good an NCAA tournament caliber team, just as Iowa State is. So, that loss isn't too much to hang on.
No, completely. Drake, of course, a tournament team last year, and I believe they're favored to win the Missouri Valley Conference again this year. So we knew it was going to be a dogfight, and unfortunately in the early season, the women just ended up on the wrong end. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do some quick volleyball talk for you, and then we'll get into an exciting 5-game Cyclone InCYders Pick Em segment. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Cyclone InCYders. Welcome back to Cyclone InCYders. The Iowa State volleyball team was a bright spot this last week in a tough week for Iowa State athletics. They advanced to 16-8 on the season, improving to 7-5 in the Big 12, and completing season sweeps of West Virginia at home, and then picking up a nice match win at Kansas State. So they're picking up some solid play as they head into the more difficult games at the end of their Big 12 schedule. Due to time constraints, though, we're going to move on to the Cyclone InCYders Pick 'em segment. So, guys, great week last week for Jared. I was a little solid. John, that's what you get for missing a week, man. You were rusty.
Well, I would like to speak on behalf of myself that the TCU loss was not as bad, or the loss, they were right within the game, and obviously Oklahoma was beating Iowa State. We'll take it lightly. So
yeah, I bet you were feeling pretty good at halftime of that Oklahoma game. So Jared goes 4-0, improves to 12-12. I'm sitting at 13-15, and John at 8-13. So congrats to Jared for moving to 500. That's an accomplishment for us.
We're back.
All right, like I said, we'll drop some score predictions. Since this is Cyclone InCYders, we'll start with the Iowa State game. Texas coming into town. Iowa State favored for the first time ever against the Texas Longhorns by a touchdown, 7 points. Actually, I'll start with John. John, who do you got in this one? And go ahead and give a score prediction too.
I think that the 7 points to Iowa State is not enough, or I shouldn't say not enough. It's Texas is a better team than Iowa State in my opinion. They got some, like I talked about before, they got some big bodies on the outside. I think their just offense is going to be another tough one to handle for the Iowa State defense. Although the Iowa State offense is very powerful, and I think Texas is going to struggle. I just think, it's going to be a battle, but Texas is going to come out on top, and, 7 points isn't going to be enough for Iowa State. Score prediction, I think I'm going to go Texas 38, Iowa State 28.
All right. I mean, Tom Herman seems to have Iowa State's number, but I know Matt Campbell wants to pick up a win against him. Jared, who do you have?
I got Iowa State here. I like them using that momentum from the end of the game in Oklahoma, coming back here to Jack Trice, first home game in a while, and really coming out and showing us that they're not that team that's just going to fall short. They can get through to the win here. So I got 37-27 Iowa State.
I'm going to jump on with you, Jared. I'm going to pick Iowa State. Of course, none of us know what's going to happen, but I like to think that this is the year we get it done. I think it's going to be a little bit of a defensive battle. I'm going to go Iowa State 28, Texas 14, but Iowa State covers. All right, moving on to the next game. Kansas at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State favored by 17.5 points over Les Miles and the Jayhawks. John?
These large spreads are really hard to guess, especially, but Kansas, they've kind of been up, down this whole year, but I think Oklahoma State's kind of been the same way a little inconsistent. So I'm going to go with Kansas. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to keep it within 17.5 and kind of battle with them a little bit. So.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. Like you said, up and down all year. Both these teams coming off a bye. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the game. But I just think 17.5 is too much. Oklahoma State probably wins it, but I like Kansas to keep it close.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to try and jump up a game on you guys here. I think the Pokes are going to cover that 17.5. I expect Hubbard to run wild on a Kansas team that's a little depleted. All right, TCU favored by 3 points on the road at the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Texas Tech coming off a big win. John, who do you got in this one?
And that is the reason why I'm picking Texas Tech. I really like their showing against West Virginia. I mean, although it is, West Virginia is dwelling kind of at the bottom there, Texas Tech, they kind of took the game against us and kind of just built off it recently. And I really like how their offense is moving, so I'm going to go with them in a win over TCU.
Jared?
Give me TCU in this one. I was impressed with them last week against Baylor. Only letting 9 points out of the Baylor Bears in regulation. Holden Brewer didn't move the ball as much and didn't score as many points, but I do like TCU to go in there and slow down that Texas Tech offense and come out with a win.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, Jared, you realize they only scored 9 points in the
I do
regulation.
realize that. But
Texas Tech's got offense, but yeah.
Max Duggan's going to do it this week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with you, Jared, and the odds makers. I'm gonna pick TCU in this one. I think they're a little bit of a better team than their record shows, so I'll have them covering 3 on the road. West Virginia traveling at Kansas State. Kansas State coming off a tough loss, but favored by 2 touchdowns. John?
Yeah, we talked about West Virginia being the kind of at the bottom of the conference. Kansas State, I think they're a better team. 14, although it may seem like a lot, I think just Kansas State's going to overpower them by every aspect. Defense is going to shut them down. So West Virginia's kind of been dealing with some offensive issues, which for the Big 12 Conference is not usual. So I think Kansas State's going to take care of them just fine.
Yeah, I got Kansas State as well. Still got everything to play for this season and being up there towards the top of the conference rankings and in the national rankings. Everything's still out on the table for them. This is a game they need to come out, and they can't stumble. They got to come out and really take it to West Virginia and show the conference and the nation that they're here. So give me Kansas State in this game.
Yeah, I liked how you kind of mentioned there that Kansas State still has everything to play for. I mean, they're kind of, I think in my opinion, been like the sneaky team of the Big 12, kind of just hanging in there even though everybody doesn't think of them off the top of their head.
Yeah, lost to Texas, but still sitting in the college football playoff rankings at 24. So I'm gonna go with a sweep. I got Kansas State winning by more than 2 touchdowns as well. And finally, game of the week in the Big 12, no doubt. Oklahoma at the undefeated Baylor Bears. Baylor gets both Texas and Oklahoma at home this year. Oklahoma favored by 10, though. Baylor's been slipping past some opponents. The odds makers like Oklahoma to double-digit the undefeated Baylor Bears. John, are they right?
Yes, the Oklahoma Sooners are the best team in the Big 12, no matter what the records say. I think Jalen Hurts is by far a better quarterback than Charlie Brewer is, and CeeDee Lamb is a better receiver than anybody that Baylor has on their team, or whoever is going to go out there and be on offense. CeeDee Lamb's going to cook them. So, yeah, and defensively, I think that Baylor's just they're going to struggle holding the Sooners down. So I'm going to take the 10 points and go with the Sooners. I think this is going to be a statement game for them, and they're ready to show, they haven't lost a step.
Yeah, I like what you said about being the best team regardless of record. I'm just going to jump in and say I'm picking Oklahoma as well to cover that 10 points, and I think it's about time Baylor got a loss that they deserve. Jared?
Yeah, I got Oklahoma too. I think this Baylor luck runs out after all these close games. They didn't look great at TCU on last Saturday, so I think Oklahoma comes out and win by more than 10.
I don't remember a game where Baylor has looked great, but they found a way to win, and that's really all you got to do at the end of the day. So
there's no doubt it's been a weird year in the Big 12. We talked about them overperforming, so we don't know what's going to happen. It's worth watching all these games. They're definitely going to be exciting. It's worth coming out and cheering on Iowa State at Jack Trice this weekend. And games are in full effect at Hilton, so be sure to check those out too, because it's a great time for Iowa State athletics. We're in the thick of all the sports seasons right now. That's all the analysis we have for you on Cyclone InCYders. As always, go Cyclones.